Welcome back to another action-packed episode of the Daily Podcast Kung Fu, brought to you by the villain's man, myself, Justin Raymer, as I attempt to traverse the continuity of Marvel's most prolific martial artist in Iron Fist and Shang-Chi. If you want to keep with the podcast, you can do so over on social media accounts, Twitter, X, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads. If you want to keep up with myself, you could do so over on Twitter, X, and Instagram. If you want to keep up with my tabletop role-playing shenanigans with my friends, you can do so over on the last tavern on the left, where we are currently just in the beginning of my comic book madness campaign titled The Infinity Crisis of the Omniverse, where my players are Doctor Doom, Kid Goku, and Turtle Ranger Donatello respectively, and in this last issue have just fought Red Lantern and Bison from Street Fighter. It's a lot of fun. Everybody's really enjoying the game, so hopefully you will go subscribe to the last tavern on the left and listen, and you'll enjoy it just as much as they are. But today, we are talking about a very big new comic. I said that I was going to start covering some new stuff, and this is new as of this recording. It is from this past Wednesday. We are talking Power Man Timeless number 1. Just 2 episodes ago, I did cover Timeless Volume 3. That was the beginning of this story. It's just a little over a year ago when we got that. But now, here we are. We're about to learn about Power Man, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Immortal Hulk, Luke Cage, Century Void, Luke Cage. There's a lot to dive into with this episode, and a lot that left us fans wanting after Timeless Volume 3. So, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and start getting into what we've got here. So Power Man Timeless number 1 was released on February 5th, 2025, along with 10 other titles from Marvel Comics. They are Avengers number 9, 23, Namor Volume 2, number 7, Phoenix Volume 1, number 8, Scarlet Witch Volume 4, number 9, Spectacular Spider-Man Volume 1, number 12, Spidey and His Amazing Friends Volume 1, number 3, Spirits of Vengeance Volume 2, number 6, Star Wars Legacy of Vader Volume 1, number 1, Ultimates Volume 4, number 9, and Wolverine Volume 8, number 6. Now, Ultimates number 9 is the first appearance of the new universe's Luke Cage. Excellent book. It's got Danny Rand in it, who has this, metal Vega from Street Fighter look going on. Me and Omar from I Am Iron Fist, go follow I Am Iron Fist wherever you're on social media, was talking about that. We both agreed that, it seems like that's Misty Knight in the background of that book. And I was like, would it be cool if Danny was working with her, in the prison to do some stuff? And we were like, oh yeah, that'd be really cool. Also, on the day this book dropped, we had Big Ben Donovan show up on your neighborhood friendly Spider-Man on Disney Plus. He is an old school Luke Cage villain. He was originally a lawyer turned criminal. Here he's a gang leader, so a little bit different, which everything about that show is different. But yeah, it was like a Luke Cage day, the day that Power Man Timeless number 1 dropped. So you can't complain about that. The title of this issue is called Something New, and your writers are Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing. These guys always work together if you're unfamiliar with them, if you're just reading them. This book, they did cover the last Thunderbolt story, if I'm right. Yeah, I think that's them. Where Shang-Chi got involved. Eventually I'll cover that on the podcast as well. Bernard Chang did the inks and the pencils. Marcelo Miolo was your colorist. I'm not really sure how to pronounce that. Probably should have looked that up beforehand, but hey, that's just how I roll. Travis Laham does your letterings, and Darren Chant is your editor. The cover is done by Andre Bessan and Rochelle Rosenberg. And, basically it is Power Man flying towards the reader, the fist glowing with the chi of Shao-Lao the Undying, and then all 3 characters he's gotten powers from were kind of in the bottom of the frame. And this book has obviously, I think 4 or 5 variants tied in with it, and then there's probably some variants, I'm sure, floating around that are comic book exclusives for local shops. I've not seen any of those, but I would be surprised if they're out there somewhere. But we're not going to talk about variants here, we're just worried about the main cover of the book. Let's go ahead and go on to the story. The Void reiterates Power Man's past as he floats in the orbit of the moon unchanged by Khonshu. Believing he has been thrown through the time stream into the past, Luke decides he needs to find Danny Rand. Flying to Earth, Cage finds a gathering of heroes he once knew long ago mourning the recent death of his former friend. Seeing his wife and daughter in attendance with his younger self, Power Man realizes he's in the past of a universe not his own. As Luke leaves Earth, the Void mocks him as he contemplates exile like the former heroes whose powers he now has. Thinking he is alone, the Dark Entity reminds Cage that they are left with each other. Nearing Jupiter, a female voice cries out for help, lending hope to the hero's despair while talking to the Void. As Spider-Man tries to slow the fearful woman, an unseen attack sends him crashing into a nearby moon. Not understanding why he was attacked unprovoked, Aeon the Knife introduces himself. The Space Knight informs Luke that he is the end of all things and attacked him simply because he can. Contained in his anger, Luke refuses that answer and asks for a more reasonable one. Refusing to do so, Cage suggests to Aeon that he go back to where he came from. The condescension enrages the warrior, who rushes to attack. After an exchange of blows, Power Man is sliced in two and killed. As Aeon leaves his fallen foe behind, Luke's mind reels as his soul falls into the green door. While the blood of the immortal Hulk rebuilds his body, the female voice calls to Cage again, asking him various questions in regards to Earth. Power Man awakens to find himself in a golden room as the woman is amazed about what makes up the structure of his being. She introduces herself as Eversight and informs Luke none from Earth have ever seen where he is. As he looks at the vastness of the place, the woman tells Cage he is in the Celestial's heart. Eversight begins to go on about how infatuated she is with the place. Questioning her loneliness, Power Man mocks her joy and asks if the Celestial heart loves her back. To his painful surprise, it answers back that it does. Realizing that Eversight and the entity saved him for a purpose, Luke asks what they want in return. She admits that Aeon is near, and that her and the Celestial Heart want him to defeat the warrior. Seeing they rather have the villain dead than reasoned with, Cage refuses. Suddenly, a streak of blue comes down between Power Man and Eversight, cleaving the Celestial Heart in two. High above them hovers Aeon, disgusted with the entity's inability to fight back. Wasting no time, Luke rushes Eversight to safety. She screams at him that the Heart's death is his fault because he refused to fight for them. Turning to face the threatening words of the Knife, Luke's body increases in size and turns green as the rage of the Hulk is released. A lot to unpack here. We've been discussing this version of Luke Cage from the Timeless Volume 3 episode. We're getting to learn a little bit more of him as we had learned before the release of this book that he is from an alternate universe, so he's part of Marvel's ongoing, ever-growing and expanding multiverse, which there's nothing wrong with that. I think some of us Luke Cage fans were kind of disappointed this wasn't the future, but hey, I mean, no one can tell you what comic future is the exact future of Marvel 616. Forever I always thought it was 2099. Dan Slott really kind of worked that into his Spider-Man lore and kind of built onto that. I mean, but a lot of people say, it's Days of Future Past. Age of Apocalypse has got a pretty big argument with itself. So, I mean, who knows? And like I said, there's not a whole lot to his universe that we're aware of when it comes to these books. So there's a lot that Lansing and Kelly can build of, and I don't know why my computers want to give me a lot of information right now. I don't need it. So, but let's go ahead and talk about this Luke Cage and some of the stuff that we have learned. So, it's very interesting that he wants to go and be in solitude or, just be alone and break himself away from the rest of the universe, because we've learned, and just in this book, that's what Danny did, that's what Banner did, that's what, Bob Reynolds of Century did. And it's very early on in this book. And it kind of gives us an idea of these characters. And we don't know why they went into any type of solitude, but the Void, which I thought that was really cool, that all the caption boxes are the Void. That's very Deadpool of him. And I really love that now he's not alone. There's no need for thought bubbles or anything. The captions are the Void inside of his head. I love that. I think that's great. So, as he is going into exile, as he leaves Earth, the Void is speaking to him. He says, The very death of his universe could not stop his endless, insufferable existence. Was it exile then, really? Had that worked out for the man who'd come before? Poor Bruce Banner, hiding in the dying rainforest, repeating mantras of peace, and testing new deaths that the Hulk never let stick until he bled into Luke's veins. Very interesting, considering that's what we're seeing in this book with the Hulk. If he has a Hulk persona inside of his head outside of the void, that's something I would really like to see in this next issue that we're getting. But it's cool because as Aeon, and we'll get to Aeon the knife here in a second, like as he cuts Luke apart, we have this really cool scene, and it's basically his head where his body is cleaved in two, and it's falling through the green door, and it is awesome. I love that. If you don't know anything about the One Below All in the Green Door, basically Al Ewing, who wrote The Immortal Hulk, who's oddly enough writing Venom, who has Luke Cage in it as well, and I'll talk more about that later. So basically, when you die as a gamma mutate, you go through the green door, and then basically a green door opens to allow you to come back to life when your body reconstitutes. We've learned that that door can also be closed forever, and you can never come back. Just kind of in a nutshell. So I love that we're getting this part of the story, because it became such a big thing with the Immortal Hulk, the Green Door and the One Below All, which is mentioned in here. But if you never read Immortal Hulk, do it. It's great. It really kind of changed the dynamic of Banner and the Hulk. It's great stuff. There's some more stuff here that comes out as Eversight is talking to him after he's reconstituting him. He's in the heart of the Celestial. You're remarkable, you. Unlimited gamma radiation stores. Functional immortality siphoned from the one above all. I don't know if that's a typo and it's supposed to mean the one below all. I don't know why he would have the one above all. Not that I'm aware of. I don't think the one above all is tied to the Century at all. My Century lore doesn't really go past New Avengers, I should say Dark Avengers, really. I'm not sure how the serum and whatnot would be tied to that, but, things get changed all the time. But I wonder if that's a typo there at all. And I like how the Celestial Heart itself, didn't even know that was possible, because we know that the world that the One Below All lives in, I should say, is like the bottom of the multiverse. So the Celestial Heart, this is an abstract entity. Maybe the heart of a Celestial, who knows? That's something that I don't know if we're going to learn, but I'll kind of get maybe more into that some later on. But I thought that was cool that this heart knew exactly what, even if it's the one above all, that it would know that, which I think is supposed to be the one below, or I think that's just a typo. But it's cool. When he's reconstituting after we see the Green Door, it even says, it has been years since he has seen the Green Door. He's forgotten the terror of dying as a Hulk, and the shame of being exiled, even from eternal rest. Such was the monster he became. So, I'm very curious to this bleeding into his body. So, does this mean that for Bruce Banner to be rid of the Hulk, he just needed a complete blood? Well, I don't want to say transfusion, that don't make any sense, but literally, like, he had to bleed out and the blood go into someone else's body? That's interesting. That's something I need to see on page. I love that. And so even when we get to the Hulk, it's pretty cool, because there's this whole thing with fear, but we see him Hulk out and he attacks. So I'm wondering if this is going to be a different personality outside the Void and Luke Cage's own. I think this is really cool that we're getting this part, so I'm very curious what's coming next with the rest of the powers that are in, because we've seen things with the Iron Fist through the Timeless one-shot in this book. But we're going to talk about Danny Rand there, since we're talking about the Iron Fist, and it says, ambitious Danny Rand, alone with the power of the dragon Shao-Lao, in his arcane boardrooms turned temples, worshipping a god that ate him from the inside until Luke punched him in the heart. It's a good callback there. If you know anything about Iron Fist, it's, striking the heart of the dragon is what gives you the powers and whatnot, and that was a good callback to the death of Khonshu in the Timeless one-shot. And then we move here to the Century, or worst of all, the lunatic Bob Reynolds, who buried himself 20 miles in the earth. That's pretty awesome. All to keep the unlimited solar power of the Sentry from exacting its devastating cost. All it did was trap poor Bob with the Sentry's equal and opposite, that which took for every soul the Sentry saved. The same darkness and doubt and despair that now flowed under Luke's unbearable skin. He could run into the most distant galaxies, and it would not matter. He was alone, left only with the void, left only with me. I love that reveal of the void. That's pretty cool. My guess with the void is obviously the next issue is going to be Hulk related, as we kind of built on that here in this book. I would not be surprised if we see anything, if we do, with the void once the Apocalypse stuff comes. We know that we're going to Apocalypse and Mars, or Akaro, whatever it's called, from Hickman's X-Men stuff. But the Sentry has ties to Apocalypse, and so does the Void. We know that after his death at the hands of Thor, he was hit with the Life Seed, he was hit with the Death Seed, and he was the Horseman of Death under the Apocalypse twins. He even claimed that he wanted to be Apocalypse. Apocalypse has a deep history, a long history with the Celestials. This is the Celestial Heart that we're talking about here. And which is crazy that it's in the heart, the core of Jupiter. I thought that was pretty cool. And it can speak, and we'll get to that here in a second. So yeah, I could see where the Void would make its appearance during the Apocalypse things, just for all of those reasons. If you've not read that Uncanny Avengers run, or even the Uncanny X-Force run that leads into all that, good stuff there. Big Marvel history lessons that you should probably be reading if you've not done them. But let's go ahead and move on to these new characters here. We have Eversight. She first reminds me when we first see her face after she's talking to Luke and she introduces herself. The first thing I thought, she's Persephone from The Matrix Reloaded. When you first get introduced to her, she's got like that tight latex red dress on, and it's not so much the dress, it's the actor from basically the top of her breast, collarbones up. Because she's got that tight ponytail, she's got black hair, and if you put that little choker that Persephone wears in that scene of Reloaded, that's what she looks like in this picture to me. So, but anyways, we kind of learn a lot from her. So Luke asked her if she was human. She says, I was maybe once, but I was removed before memory could take root. Kindness to the girl I must have been. There must have been an Eversight. The system relies on it. What has cost me in loneliness is given me in wisdom and joy and awe and power. This place is my only love. It almost seems like she can maybe see genetics, because she talks about water being freshly bonded. And I thought that was interesting. The whole thing that she's learned from the heart, or the system, I think she's referring to the whole like solar system, not the heart. I think that's kind of different. But we learned that she kind of has telepathy, or just some way to make you see things through thought by touch. We know that she wants to do that to Luke, as Luke finds out that they saved him to hopefully help beat Aeon the Knife. She says, open your mind, I can equip you with understanding. He says, no, we're not going to do that. Talk to me like a person. I love that's the human side of Luke. I love that. What I am thinking here, we know that the system requires an Eversight. So, to me, if it's something that is required, sounds like Aeon the Knife is required also. And not sure if it's created by the Celestial Heart or whatnot, or even Celestials, because we know that's kind of Apocalypse's thing with making the Horsemen and whatnot. So there's like all this genetic creation stuff going on in this book. And a lot of that, like I said, that's what Apocalypse does. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and all of his tech and everything comes from the Celestials. But the heart of Jupiter is kind of what I was thinking. I don't know if it's a heart of Celestial. I thought that was really cool. Because she says no human has ever been there, because for all we know, Jupiter is a gas planet. But in the center is this gigantic heart that they're in. Oddly enough, colors of Moon Knight with the gold inlay to his suit. Everything looks like it's wraps in this heart. Wraps. Like, they got that nice off-white color to them, and then everything's banded in gold. Very Moon Knight-ish Khonshu. I thought that was kind of interesting when we get to see the heart. Let's go ahead and talk about Aeon the Knife. He hits Luke from behind and kind of introduces himself. And Luke says, "Why? Like, why'd you hit me?" "Because it is my right. I'm the edge that ends all things. I am Aeon the Knife." Like I said, he looks like a Tron warrior. Maybe Celestial after I read this, but like what I was talking about in the Timeless one shot, he kind of looks like a Tron character. I mean, legit looks like a Tron character. And I end you because I can. So, like, if the Eversight has some type of function that she's needed, and the way he's all about ending everything, it seems like he's created as well. So I'm wondering if this Celestial Heart created both of them. So I'm just curious to see how that turns out. We do learn some stuff as Luke wants to try to talk to him instead of fighting him. He says, "I have traveled too far across star fields soaked in gore." Luke says, "I know something about that. Maybe consider going back. You think I left anything behind?" So this guy is fucking a slaughterer. Like, I'm curious where this guy showed up with. Like, why has he not encountered Nova, Silver Surfer, the Shi'ar Empire and Gladiator, the Guardians of the Galaxy? I get that new characters pop up all the time, and the universe is vast. But just some of the dialogue, that's just how my comic book mind works. But anyways, man, this whole slice of Luke Cage thing in half is awesome. And for a guy who's got unbreakable skin, the durability of the Hulk and the Sentry all in one, like, you have to be this massive cosmic powerhouse to slice this man in half. He's going to teach him a lesson, is what Luke tells him. He says, "I did not need a father to teach me this lesson. It was spoken in the very code of my blood, whispers by the mist when they sharpen me. You are sundered, the knife remains whole, to go see the next." So we know that he is created as well. And we kind of understand from Eversight that she is created also. Like, all memory stripped of her, like she was probably aged to look the way she does at birth. I see that this Aeon the Knife, probably no different. These two are tied together somehow. And it's just a matter of how. Because they seem like they are meant to be. Like, one is life and one is death. Maybe one is life seed, maybe one is death seed. I'm very curious to see how this plays out. But I can't help knowing that Apocalypse is coming. That's what I hate about previews. Is they give away stuff and the cover gives it away. But man, I can't, this whole Celestial talk, knowing that Apocalypse is coming, I can't help but try to make those connections there. But anyways, he calls himself the Genetic Messiah. So here we go, genetics again. Like I said, I don't want to say that it's not there, but man, there's just all types of things that point to there. So, but I'm surprised I'm sure we'll completely be surprised by all of this. So, two new characters. I guess Celestial Heart is a new thing too, but it dies. Like I said, it says the system, and now that I think about it, by the heart, it could mean the system as in the body, because our bodies are a system, a genetic system. So maybe there's a heart, there's a brain. I don't know. I mean, it could all be the insides of Celestial, but we've learned from Jason Aaron's Avengers run what the inside of a Celestial could potentially look like during that. So I'm not really sure how all this is going to work. I am very intrigued by the whole thing. I'm very curious of how this is going to play out. And even though this is going to be limited number of issues, I'm going to want more. I feel that not all the answers are going to be here in just these 4 issues, and I hope it isn't, because I'm excited. I really love what I read here. I do like that Luke Cage looked up when Power Man was coming to Earth, and he kind of noticed the big splash of light as he took off. So there's some recognition there. Obviously, we don't know if he'd seen himself there. But I thought that was a cool little wink and a nod there from Lansing and Kelly. Because currently, and I'm just briefly going to talk about this, I talked about how I wasn't sure if I was going to cover Venom. My whole point for covering this Power Man book is because he's an Iron Fist. and this podcast is all about Shang-Chi and Iron Fist, I thought that would be a little bit cool. But I am going to talk about Venom very briefly. Not in detail like I do, just how this could be Luke Cage. I said the last episode I haven't read 2. So I went ahead and read 2 because 3 comes out this next coming week at our LCS. So what kind of makes you think it's Luke Cage is, and everybody, and I kind of pointed this out online, I've had a lot of people talking, is we have this guy that works for AIM. I cannot think of his name off the top of my head. Let me look down here at my notes real fast. Apparently the screenshot didn't get added to this. Harlan McNeil, who studies superheroes. So he knows like their movements, their powers, their abilities, weaknesses, and he can look at somebody probably in a suit and tell who they are. And that's kind of what we're getting at with this Venom when he shows up at the trial from out of mask and stuff, right? So he says, Venom's webbing was always stronger than Spider-Man since the black suit first appeared. In fact, looks like tensile strength has increased. With Luke's strength and his skin, that makes a lot of sense. The Bernstein test could have done that, the whole experiment. So it makes sense that if it increased his body, his physicals, that it would increase the organic webbing, which feeds off of your body. And I guess the gold eyes, the gold spider on the chest, you could say that's Luke Cage. But I just read issue 2 today, knowing I was going to record this tonight. And let's move to the end. The end's very important. Chance, who showed up there in the 80s, right around before Venom got there, uses his high-powered laser blast a hole in Venom's head. Dylan, who is watching, says, so it's not Luke Cage, because we know we have Luke Cage, Robbie Robertson, and Rick. I about called him Ross. But anyways, so Rick Jones. Everybody's like, can't be Luke Cage. Breakable skin. That laser shouldn't do that. But if you go to the beginning of issue 2, we see Venom eat a bomb and contain it inside his head. To me, if you can contain an explosion inside your head, and we know that, and it's going to blow up all your little brain bits, the suit's going to heal it all back. We know the suit's got a crazy regeneration properties, right? Crazy. I mean, like Wolverine has stabbed Venom in the head numerous times, and Venom's like, ha ha, it heals up. Clearly, if a bomb went off, this hole's going to freeze up, right? So, here's why I still think it could be Luke Cage. And I had to go hunt this down because I remember it. If you've never read Donny Cates' Venom run, it's fantastic. Al Ewing being a guy who studies everything before he writes it. Like I said, read Immortal Hulk. He's currently doing Immortal Thor. It makes sense that he would read Donny Cates' run. And there's something that has always stuck to me in the Donny Cates' run. Because I can remember back in Spectacular Spider-Man when Venom was trying to save Eddie because we found out Eddie had cancer. And this gets brought up in Donny Cates' Venom run. It's issue 11. I looked it up. And he's realizing that all these memories in his head are false. His uncle never had cancer. His sister never died of cancer. She never existed. All this stuff never existed. Venom was putting these memories in his head, the symbiote. He said, you made me think I was rotting every time I wanted to leave. Alter my body to make the test read I was dying. So the symbiote can alter your genetics. Makes sense to me that he could alter the genetics of Luke's unbreakable skin in the moment that Chance shoots him in the face, because it's clearly in the mouth. So if he could alter the skins of his this genetic from Bernstein's experiment and have that changed, he has to shoot him directly in the mouth, because we see the bottom jaw there. If you know anything about Luke Cage, his insides are very vulnerable. Like, he coughs blood all the time. Still, Venom can heal that up. Is it Luke Cage? To me, it makes sense about that it is Luke Cage. I cannot see Marvel pushing a whole series based on Rick Jones being Venom, because we know Rick Jones has been A-Bomb. He's been tied to Captain Marvel. He's been tied to the Hulk numerous different ways. He was Bucky at one time. Yeah, it makes sense to throw him in there. I would love it to be Robbie, because of the past with Tombstone, everything that just happened in Gang War. I would love it to be him, because then we could see him go actually beat up on Tombstone for once. But having Venom symbiote, because of Gang War, Luke, with the whole vigilante thing, like, vigilantes are back. Luke's like, I gotta hide my face. He put the costume on. Venom's perfect for hiding your identity if you're Luke Cage and you're the mayor of New York. So to me, it still makes sense that it's him. The symbiote can work around, make it look like he's shot in the face, and not make you think that it's Luke Cage, because it can just heal him right up. And like I just said right there, proof that genetics can be altered by the symbiote. So that's my minimum moment for Luke Cage 616, because I thought it would be fitting to talk about that here. But anyways, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Deadly Podcast Kung Fu. If you like music, check out Rushing Tiger by Kuro over on SoundCloud and YouTube. You can check out the podcast on social media accounts, Twitter, X, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads. But in the end, guys, remember, support your favorite podcast, support your local comic book shops, and keep reading comics, guys.